Evening all. The time is 6:30 and I would like to call this regular session of Chardon City Council to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Amy, call the roll, please.
Mr. Blackley?
Here.
Mrs. Chuha? Here. Mr. Graw?
Here.
Mr. Lelko?
Here.
Mr. Martin?
Here.
Ms. Means? Here. Mr. Molesky?
Here. Moving on to agenda item number 4, approval of minutes. Being that we were all in attendance in all of these, the special session and the regular session, we're going to do this all in one unit here. So are there any additions or corrections to the November 9th, 2023 special session, November 9th, 2023 regular session, and November 21st, 2023 special session? Is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? Call the question.
Mr. Blackley?
Yes.
Mrs. Chuha? Yes. Mr. Graw?
Yes.
Mr. Lelko?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Means?
Yes.
Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to the manager's report. Good evening, Randy.
Good evening, Mayor. Thank you. Just a reminder that city offices will be closed for the Christmas holiday from noon Friday the 22nd through Monday, December 25th, and then again on Monday, January 1st. Also, as in the past, per the agreement with Waste Management, a roll-off will be provided for residents to drop off their Christmas trees once the holiday is over, starting January 2nd through the 22nd, Monday through Saturday, 7 to 4 at the street garage. A couple of weeks ago, the city hosted Representative Sarah Fowler Arthur and Representative Steve Dimitro at the Heritage House. It was regarding the capital budget information session for Geauga County officials. This year is unique in that there's a $700 million fund that they're partnering with the capital improvements that entities are allowed to apply for. The city and fire department are working jointly together to apply for the new ladder truck that's needed. Justin, Chief Geis, has worked very hard on getting that together and was also able to secure letters of support from the county commissioners, Chardon Township, and Clarendon Township. So we're hopeful that will get their attention and also get funded. Additionally, our Park and Rec Director, Adam Rogers, has worked on a project to improve the area down by the pump filtration building, to add some furniture, some landscaping, security camera, benches, and some play items. That's all kind of coming together, but we're trying to apply for that as well, but that's very small in comparison to the $2.2 million for the ladder truck. The other one's around $100,000. And those have both been submitted, both to the House and the Senate at this point in time. The 2024 Sidewalk Maintenance Catch Basin Program, 2023 Sidewalk Maintenance, sorry about that, error in the memo there. 2023 Sidewalk Maintenance and Catch Basin Program. The requests for quotes were sent out in late November. They were due here on the 12th. We did get 3 quotes in. They were from Roniak Paving, Eclipse Companies, and DPD Construction and Engineering. The lowest was Roniak Paving for $135,605, and that work will be given to them, the purchase order put in place for that to start in 2024. Just to get it done here in 2023. The Shop with a Cop program went off on December the 3rd, and I'd like to turn it over to Chief Nias to update us on how that went.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Manager. We had about 7 families that we shot for this year. 16 children. Of those 16, the majority of them were present. We had a couple of the young folks that had special circumstances going on. Just a wonderful program. The officers interacted with the kids. You could just see the excitement in their eyes as we navigated the aisles with them. We really would like to thank all of the donors that make that happen. Every bit of that program is is community-sponsored donations that makes that happen. Walmart, Chardon Eagles, and Consumer Tire were big big donators, but every little bit helps with that. Then we had approximately 20, I didn't count them all, but I would believe we had between 25 and 30 elves in the back that helped wrap presents. And I think this year the novel item that I saw was a hula hoop, trying to wrap a hula hoop. I think that was, that always makes me kind of chuckle a little bit. Thank you to the community. Thank you to the officers that participated and all of our special VIPs that helped to wrap. Just a huge thank you to everybody. Thank you.
Welcome. Moving on to the Public Works projects updates. The Center Street Sidewalk Infill project is substantially complete with the closeout documents being prepared. The Hidden Glen Water Main Loop. The bid opening was held on the 29th of November. 8 bids were received, ranging from $676,328 to $1,158,190. The city engineer's cost estimate for the construction of that project was $714,367. So the low bid is under the estimate. And the engineer's recommendation will be discussed tonight under agenda item 11G when we get there. The 7th Avenue Repair, Widening, and Extension project is substantially complete also, and the street has been reopened. If you've been up there, you can go all the way through now. The Maple Highlands Trail, Stream, and Wetland Restoration project. This is the Davy Resource Group. They're continuing their work out there. I think they're almost wrapping it up at this point in time. The restoration work has continued, and there's a walkthrough scheduled for next Tuesday, the 19th. With all the groups out there. And if you haven't been, it definitely has transformed that whole area. It looks much, much different. It's opened up and they put in all the rocks and the stream beds all connecting, so it looks pretty cool. The State Route Resurfacing 2024, no update this time, and no update for the Center Street Sanitary Improvement Project either. And be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Randy? All right, thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
Moving on to council committee reports. We'll start with Finance Committee. Good evening, Dan.
Do you want to do planning commission?
Oh, I'm sorry, Planning Commission, sorry. You were hoping I was going to miss it, or?
No, I always love I love to give this report. The Planning Commission met in regular session on Tuesday, November 28th. We had 2 items on the agenda. The first was a variance for a sign deviation for the Redwood Apartments. The variance was to allow the sign to be located 5.5 feet from the right-of-way instead of 10 in the front yard setback. That was approved. We also had on the agenda the Hidden Glen water main extension that Randy just talked about. So that also was approved. The only other thing I have to report on is that I did attend the groundbreaking ceremony for the courthouse addition on Tuesday, December 12th. It was well attended by the county officials, and I'm glad to see that project is moving forward. That concludes my report.
Are there any questions for Andy? Right, thank you, Andy. Now we can get into Finance.
Okay. So Finance Committee met November 15th. We had one specific item on the agenda. It was to, in essence, review what we could do as far as the levies and provide relief based on some reavows on that were done by the auditor. So we recommended to reduce the 2 mil fire and EMS levy to 1.5, which was Mark had kind of done the research and thought that that was the most viable piece. And anything that would be needed to cover the fire and EMS, we would pull from the general fund just to make that whole, to make sure that we're covered with fire and EMS. That was also during our special meeting on the 21st that was on the agenda, and we also passed that. It was passed unanimously on Resolution 23-23. The additional item we did talk about in any other business was just to get an update on the OpenGov that we chose as our budget software solution. Mark, can you just give us a kind of a brief summary of where we're at there?
Sure. Right now we're making good progress with the implementation. We've simulated our capital budget and our operating budget, so we're just going through templates. We've done a lot of validating. The financial data is coming over from our financial system into the new software system, so we have about 10 years of history. So we've been spending a lot of time the past few weeks just going through, making sure everything matches. There's been a lot of minor adjustments, but it's usually a quick fix by the software company where, there was a box they didn't check or didn't see at first, and that's why we go through this process. So, as of yesterday, the financial data that's coming over looks pretty good. We've also been working on the workforce planning, which is basically all the employees and all the different cost elements that go into each employee, such as health insurance, COLA increases, workers' comp, anything that goes into an employee's budget. So we're making good progress as of now. That's it.
Thanks, Mark. That concludes my report.
Are there any questions for Dan or Andy on the Finance Committee? All right, thanks, Dan. Move on to Service Committee. Dave?
Service Committee met on November 20th last month, and we discussed basically two items. The first was the contract with waste management. The reason that was brought to us now is that council chose not to exercise the 2 years of the extension. We would need to be going out to bid now to get that accomplished by the deadline for next year. Second thing we addressed was a number of things for cemetery regulations. Since both these items are on the agenda, if you want, I'll just stop now and address them when we get to the legislation.
I would appreciate that. Unless anybody else wants more details before we get into legislation. Okay. Anything else, Dave?
Nope.
That's it. All right, any questions for Dave or Debbie on service? All right, thank you. Move on to agenda item number 8, hearing of persons before council. We have Matt Kenzone. Matt?
Yes, sir.
He's requesting permission to use the square and Heritage House on September 6th, 7th, 8th, 2024 for a military show. Matt, welcome, and who's joining you tonight?
Thank you. So this is Jim. He's a member of the 5th Ranger Battalion, reenactment group. And I thought it'd be a nice touch to bring him to better explain things that I cannot.
Sure.
So what I wanted to do, and if it's all right with you, introduce myself, give my background, give my company background, and then go into our requests and our military show, and then maybe wrap up and have Jim talk, and then save questions till the end, if that's okay with you guys. Is everybody okay with that? I want to be respectful.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. So, my name is Matt Canzone. I started a company called Our Military Heritage Company, and we're a for-profit military history company. And we basically, so we're BBB accredited, we're insured, and we're licensed with the state of Ohio for vendors, and we have our federal firearms license. So we started the company because there's a lack of excitement and enthusiasm for military history. So going back to my childhood, it goes way back to that. So when I was like 10, 11 years old, I had a paper route. I used to snow blow driveways, cut grass. I had more money then than I do now, believe it or not. So when I was doing those things, I would go to garage sales. And that's kind of where I got the bug to kind of collect and find that hidden treasure. So it kind of took off from there. And then my dad has a military background. He was in the Army. So he used to take me to all the military surplus stores. There was one on 185th Street in Cleveland. We used to go to all the time. And then he used to take me to Woolworths and Richmond Mall, and they had a sporting goods section, and he used to show me all the military surplus rifles and tell me the history about them. So it's kind of his fault. God rest his soul. And then I used to play on the M48 Sherman tank that's parked out front of the Utica Public Library. Back then, they had the hatch open, so you were able to go in, and it was actually fun, but they don't do that anymore. So fast forward, my uncle Sam, God rest his soul, played a big part of World War II. He was in charge of a machine gun group, a small battalion for D-Day on the beaches of Normandy. And he was in the second wave. He made it through the second wave, thank God, and he made his way through France. And him and his battalion captured and I'm getting somewhere with the story. His battalion captured a small German outpost, and he actually captured the flag off the post, took all the medals off the German soldiers and the officers, took all their rifles and pistols, and after that they were headed back. His battalion was headed back to meet up with another unit, and there was word that he was going to get captured with his unit by other Germans. So if German soldiers caught U.S. soldiers with German paraphernalia on them, it's instant execution because they would assume that you killed the Germans to get that stuff. So they dumped a lot of the rifles in the woods to lighten their load to travel faster. So they made it back. He made it back home, thank God, with the flag, the medals, and some of the pistols. So fast forward to like 2016, 2017, when my dad was alive, and my Aunt Jean is my dad's sister. She married my Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam passed away in the 80s, but he had saved all that stuff. So we get to the house in like 2016, 2017, because he wanted to show it to me because it was exciting for him because he remembers when he captured it too, and the stories that went along with it. So we asked my Aunt Jean, we're like, where's the flag and the medal so we could see it? And she's like, oh, I threw that stuff away. So I was like, it was like someone punched me in the gut. I was just like, all that history's gone, not to mention the history, but he risked his life bringing that stuff back as a war trophy. So I was like, I had a burning desire. I was like, there's got to be a better way to preserve history. There has to be. So 3 or 4 years later, I started this company in 2021 with the intention of recreating excitement, enthusiasm, preserving history, and also trying to relate it to the younger generation, which nobody's done a really good job of as far as I'm concerned. So when we started, I transitioned out of real estate. I did real estate for like 20 years, slowly transitioned out of that into this in 2021. When we started the company, I was trying to think of ideas to come up with to kind of get excitement and enthusiasm. So I was like, let's do a public show, free to the public. So the military show we created in 2022 was, the intentions were for it to be completely free to the public, and I hope it can continue to be that way. We don't take any money from it. In fact, it's the opposite. I actually lose money because I take money out of my own pocket to pay for all the advertising, marketing, and all the features that come with the show. So it's a static display of military vehicles that come in, and this year for the first time, we've done it twice in Chardon so far. I don't know if you guys most of you are aware of that or not. But in October, real quick story, we went to the city of Willoughby because we wanted Willoughby initially because I'm there, I live there, and it's a nice historic downtown area. They have a Civil War cannon. Anyways, after 2 or 3 conversations, I was ignored by the mayor and Parks and Recreation. So we came here, we met Becky, we hit it off, we had a great relationship, and we still do. And you can ask any of the city workers, we're very respectful. We've always cleaned up after ourselves after every show. There's been 0 complaints on us. And we want to continue that. And we're so grateful for the city too, to open up their arms and their city to us. I mean, it's just been a wonderful experience. And we want to keep it going. So October 2022 was a little cold. That was our first show. We had more vehicles than I thought we were going to have. So I was really surprised by that. And our spectators were about 300 plus. So I was surprised about that too, because it being a new show. So fast forward to September 2023, this year, we did it on Labor Day weekend. Much better weather. I think September is definitely the sweet spot for the show because of the weather. But the attendance was down because it was Labor Day weekend. But we had more vehicles come in, new guys come in, and we had reenactors come in. More reenactors come in. And one reenactment group, not Jim's group, but one reenactment group in particular out of Pennsylvania came in and they said, Matt, we love the venue. We're actually starving for new reenactments to do, new shows to do, because a lot of them are getting canceled after COVID, things like that. So there's a void there. So he's like, but the only problem we have is you're asking us to coordinate people, pack up equipment, travel here for one day and leave one day. So I got to thinking, I'm like, well, maybe I should extend it, because all the military shows that I do, we do 15 a year. Between firearm shows and military shows, I do 15 a year, and they're all Saturday, Sunday. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe if I request it from the city. So we're asking for 3 things from the city. Do you guys have the handout that I? Okay, good, all right. So we're asking for 3 things. One, we're asking for use of the square for 3 days. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, September 6th, 7th, 8th of the 2024 calendar year. Fridays, beginning at about 4 or 5 p.m., I wanted to leave that time for setup, for the reenactors, for the vehicle owners, and equipment. And then the show would start Saturday, Sunday, around 9 or 10 a.m., depending on if there's spillover from the previous day, if they need more setup time. And then we would also like the use of the Heritage House as well for all 3 days. I don't have an ending time, but so the second request would be the reenactors love the visceral feeling that they create when they come in, and everything's period correct. The uniforms, the equipment, the tents. They want to be able to set up the tents in the grass area, and actually sleep and camp there overnight. So Friday night, Saturday night, camping in the square on the grass areas. I have a map I'll get to in a second. And then the third request would be a battle. So they want to do a battle in the grass area. And the battle, we'll get into some details. Jim's going to talk a little bit more about the battle too. The battle would take place on the grass area. So if you're looking at, did you guys all see this? Okay, can you guys see this? So if you're looking at the grass area, sorry, this is a horrible diagram of your beautiful square. I butchered it, but I apologize. But yeah, so the county building would be here. The gazebo would be somewhere about here, clock tower here, library over here, so you get the idea of the street, cross street right here. So we were thinking all the triangles are the tents. So we got the US camp here, German camp here, and then the battle would be here on this grass area, which is the largest opened area that we could think of. And the nice thing is we have the sidewalks too to buffer it, to keep the spectators at a distance so the reenactors have room to do their thing. So in this quadrant here, I was thinking put some tents, maybe jeeps and equipment, and a weapons tent. And then over here, the Germans could do the same. They don't need much room to do that. And then the cross street, we would have the 2 food vendors here. I usually don't do more than 2 food vendors. Oh, and by the way, we don't take any money from the food vendors. Whatever they transact independently and on their own, and they take it and go. And I want to keep it that way. I don't want to make any money from the show whatsoever. And then over here, we would have vehicles on the cross street. So basically, for the battle, what we had in mind, and by the way, when I say battle, these are blank firing weapons. They're not, by definition, firearms. They're blank firing weapons. They have to be specially modified to accept a blank round. The cartridges are half load. They do not exert a projectile at all, which is the other reason why they're not considered a firearm. So, and if you guys ever went to a track and field event, the starter gun, very similar to that, if you guys are familiar with that. So anyways, so the U.S., so the Germans would be set up over here for the battle, and we would have artificial obstacles like cardboard boxes painted and plywood painted, and we wouldn't, very little footprint on the grass whatsoever. We wouldn't damage much at all. And then we would have a transport vehicle right here to pick up the soldiers, maybe somewhere behind the Heritage House so no one can see it, and drive them over, come down the cross street here, and dump them off into the sidewalk. And then they'd all get out, and they would kind of start the battle there. That we would do probably, ideally, 2 battles on Saturday, 30 minutes each. They're real quick and fast. They're not long at all. And we would spread them out. We wouldn't do it in the morning. We'd probably do it like late morning, early afternoon, and then another one like early evening, something like that. In between the battles, we'd like a weapon demonstration so the public can interact with the reenactors and they can talk about the weapons and equipment that they used during World War II to kind of better educate them. The gazebo, I would like some audio in there. I would obviously provide all that. To announce the battles that we're doing. 2 of the battles that we're doing in commemoration of the 5th Ranger Battalion, which is the group Jim's a part of. Real quick history, 5th Ranger Battalion's a really cool unit. Their debut was D-Day. And they actually teamed up with the 2nd Ranger Battalion on D-Day, and their combat and training was so effective that they ran right through those Germans really bad. And then they actually made their way through inland, and there's 2 battles that led up to, I don't know how many people know about the Battle of the Bulge, but it was one of the biggest battles in World War II. And these 2 battles were the precursor to Battle of the Bulge. It's the Battle of the Hurtgen Forest and Battle of Brest. And those 2 battles would be commemorated during our military show. So we would get up before each battle, and we give like a 30, 45-second announcement to kind of educate the public on what the battle meant and what happened during the battle, and the importance of the battle. So, so we would do preferably 2 battles on Saturday with a weapon demonstration in between. And then Sunday, I kind of wanted to leave flexible because I don't know what the attendance is going to be on Sunday. And the reenactors have families to get back to, so if the attendance is low, we probably wouldn't do anything at all. Just have them pack up early and leave. But if there was like half of what we had the day before, maybe do 1 battle, something like that. Just kind of want to play it by the cuff, and maybe 1 weapon demonstration on Sunday as well. What I did was on the sheet that I provided for you guys is I provided 4 comparable battles. And I could have chosen a lot of other battles, but I chose these specifically because they represent the area that we're requesting. They're urban, it's an urban environment that these take place in, and they take place near major highways, and they're in a city or a village. So, and these have been successful shows. They've been on longer than my show has ever been on, and they don't have any interference with traffic or commerce or anything like that. 2 that I want to point out that are probably the most relevant would be number 3 and number 4. There's number 3 is the Toledo War Battle, and the reason why that's most relevant is because it takes place in an intersection of 2 major highways, and they have no issues whatsoever as far as interruption of traffic patterns or anything like that. I'm sure the chief of police will be happy about that. And then number 4 is the Bridge Battle of Remagen, which is a simulated battle of a battle that took place in Germany. And that's in Tidioute, Pennsylvania. And the reason why that's pretty cool, that brings in thousands of people a year, according to the Times Observer, which is a local newspaper in Tidioute, Pennsylvania. They actually shut down the bridge for this town. And this bridge is a main bridge that feeds all the traffic going into Tidioute from the other town. So they actually shut down the bridge to do this reenactment, and they have no issues. And they've been doing that show since 2009, and they get thousands of people. Now, I don't know if they're still doing it today, because after COVID, like I said, a lot has changed. There's a big void for a lot of these battles because of whatever happened, but we've certainly increased people's interest in our military show, so, and the location of it. Before I bring Jim up, I just wanted to tell you guys, branding and goodwill is a very important part of our company. If you don't have goodwill, you don't have the public's trust. So we have to align ourselves, as a company and as a military show, we have to align ourselves with people that are very similar in professionalism, courtesy, respect, and cleanliness. And I got to tell you, out of all the military shows I've done and all the reenactment groups I've met, Jim's group has to be the most professional, most cleanliest. They pick up after themselves. I mean, if you met their group of guys, you'd think you were like back in World War II. I mean, these guys are like top notch. And and I'm so honored to have known them and be a part of their group for the shows that I attend. So anyways, we aligned ourselves with Jim's group out of all the people. I think they're one of the best, if not the best in the country. And I'd like Jim just to talk a little bit about the blank firing weapons in his group and what they do to qualify things.
Okay. Thanks for having us. So again, my name is Jim Oriens, 5th Rangers. We're out of Canton, Ohio, and we're actually a Boy Scout venturing crew, which sets us apart from other groups in that we can take on the youth at 14 if they're interested in this kind of thing. We're divided up into different groups with their different units. We have medics, we have community comms guys, we have ordnance guys, and we have actually a photographer, a press unit. So the youth, a lot of the youth that don't fire, we put them in that kind of environment, and they do that. They'll run stretchers and do a medical kind of triage on the battlefields. Our group is, like I say, is out of Canton, and we're about 50 in the group. There's a lot of interest from the youth. We get a lot of youth members. And it's been around about 7 years. I've been in it 5 years. I got in it through my son's interest, through scouts. A lot of us adults came up through the scout ranks, through scout leadership. And as Matt said, we kind of, it is basically, it's a division of scouts, so it's scout-led, youth-led. We have a president-elect and then vice presidents, so, and it's similar to a Boy Scout troop in that respect. It's like I say, it's grown from inception 7 years ago to 50 strong today. We are a year-round group. We meet once a month at MAPS Air Museum down in Canton. We're active. We try to do events once a month, and we just finished up. There's a event in Lima, Laurel Farms, and then that was in October. And then in November, we were down to Ashland. We do a private tactical event we do with a German group that we are affiliated with.
Do you want to talk about the ages of the qualifying?
Yeah, so in order to participate in the battle with a weapon, you have to be 18 years old. We do a qualifying in the spring. We go to a range. One of our members is an NRA instructor. We sit down. We have, I'll call it classroom work. We go to the range, we do live fire, and then we have another session we do as far as just blank fire, maneuvers, when to shoot, not to shoot, what to shoot. You never really point a weapon at anybody. We always point up and away. That's the method we use. We have a 20-foot, we call it a no shoot range of 20 feet, within 20 feet of anybody. So you have to be 18, you have to go through the training, and then you have to shadow one of the adults for however many events we feel we're ready for you to say, okay, I think you're on your own, you can be on your own. So that's our process that we use.
And then the day of the battle, the weapons check and all that?
Yeah, so weapons are checked several times. When we come to an event, we check weapons. There's, like Matt had mentioned, the weapons have blank fire adapters, and it chokes down the muzzle.
It's a piece you put on the end of the barrel. It's like a block.
So yeah, so we look at the firearm, and then we look at the ammo that they're using when they get there. Right before the event, we do another weapons check before we head out to the battlefield. That's kind of how we control the battle. We do maneuvers just as they would during World War II, so we train to that as far as different maneuvers and the movements that we do. So we do this, like Matt said, we don't take any money. All of this is all volunteer work for us, and we do it just to keep the memory alive, I guess I'll say. There's a lot of history, even our living history portion. We'll bring in a lot of equipment and just to interact with the public. In a lot of cases, it's the first time they've seen this equipment. And a lot of our equipment is original.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate it. I just want to take 2 more minutes just to kind of summarize the overall importance of the mission and the show itself and my company overall. The indirect and direct media exposure and revenue the city can face as the show grows could be exponential, hopefully. I hope for the city can benefit just as much as we can from it as far as growth of the show. And then also, the city could also become a hallmark of historical importance and patriotism on the map, put the city on the map with the show as it grows and grows. The one thing I wanted to underscore, I know we talked about a lot and I gave you a lot of information, but the one thing, truthfully, that I don't think I conveyed to you that I think I should is the overall message and meaning behind the show. It's a spiritual endeavor to me. It really is. And the way I assimilate it is to the women's suffrage movement that started in 1820. From 1820 to 1920, the 13 original founding members of the women's suffrage movement all died of natural causes, and not a single one got to see the first woman vote. But I can guarantee you that they were confident and died with smiles on their faces, knowing that their torch will be carried from the generation going forward and the generation after that. And to me, we are all involuntary beneficiaries of the atrocities of the past. There's no question about it. Take it or leave it. Take the good with the bad. History's a bundle deal. Whether it's the women's suffrage movement, or it's my military show, or anything else going forward, it's a package deal. And this company has done nothing but give me more meaning in my life. And going forward, I hope I could die with confidence and a smile on my face, knowing that our mission will go well beyond my years, and I hope this show does too. So I want to thank you guys for all your time, listening to me blab, and I am, here for any questions you guys may have, as well as Jim.
Matt and Jim, your attention to history is commendable.
Thank you very much.
Outstanding, and your presentation was well thought, and
I appreciate that.
Appreciate all of that. I've attended 2 different reenactments over the years, one at Gettysburg and one at Century Village here in Burton, and enjoyed them a lot. But the space is a major consideration for us. So we're going to have some things to talk about here.
Sure.
You are in a densely populated area with firing weapons, even though I know that your attention to safety protocol is number one. I get all that, but we have to consider that as a major issue.
I understand.
Also, if you have been in our area for any length of time, you recognize that overnight camping on our square has been a challenge for years.
No, I read the ordinances.
So we went to great lengths over the last few years to establish that as a no zone for overnight camping. So when I hear you mention that you would want us to be here for 3 consecutive nights, or 2 nights.
2 nights, yeah, Friday night, Saturday night.
And I'll leave this open to other council members,
Sure.
but that's probably a no-go, okay? And I know that I understand your commitment to having to bring people and resources in and set up and all that, but I don't think that one's going to go over with council. Once again, I'll leave it to people. They can voice their own opinion. That's not to put any negative light on what you're doing, not at all. If we had a different area that could accommodate you for the 3 days, I understand the commitment. And once again, I've seen them other places, but the space was a huge consideration of where they were being done. I'm sure you both have seen Gettysburg, and I don't know if you've ever
Yeah,
seen
no,
it.
that's why I went out of my way to pick out specific battles that would replicate that identical area.
Is there any possibility, so until tonight, I didn't know that you had done the other shows, and I remember military vehicles being up here. I didn't realize that was your organization. So you don't want to do that again because it was just a one-day.
Well, I guess I really haven't thought about past your decision, but I think what we're going to do is, what's going to end up happening is we'll lose interest. So all the vehicle owners and the reenactors that come in, they do it on their own free will. They don't get paid for it. You know, they're paying all the gas and everything. They're coordinating everything. And for them to come up to me and say, look, it's a lot for us to do, to come in one day, unpack, pack, get here, unpack, then pack up at night again and leave. It's a lot for them to go through, and I totally appreciate, and I have a lot of empathy for them to do that. So that was my motivation, is to, because I feel like we may lose, so we may start to lose or bleed off a lot of these guys because they might get frustrated and be like, look, it's not something that we can sustain for one day in and out. That was my motivation factor for expanding the show.
Have you considered Century Village in Burton as the landing ground for your operation?
I haven't gone past, like I said, I haven't gone past anything in this meeting. I'm just taking it step by step at this
They have the
point.
experience, they have the space, they've done it for many years out there. So here, and once again, anybody else wants to chime in, I don't see this being a 3-day event with what you would like to accomplish here in the city. Anybody else want to add anything that I've missed?
Is Mel Harder completely out? Is there still sporting events going on over there? Like in September and beginning of September, tournaments, things like that? It's the only other space I can think of.
Soccer.
Soccer's still going on?
Yeah, soccer's go, fall
I think
soccer.
parking would be an issue there as well.
Yeah, when we got it, I was trying to think of where else.
I
it could
appreciate
be
that. Thank you for doing
in
that.
Chardon, but I can't think, the only other property, that's the only other with a big enough grassy property that I can think of.
We have to balance things, as I think you do as well. So we're not trying to.
I have no expectations.
Put any negative light on what you're trying to accomplish, the mission that you have, your enthusiasm. It's greatly appreciated. I'm sure the show would be entertaining, educational, all of the above. But to accomplish it on our square just doesn't look like the right location.
I'm not sure, I haven't ever done these meetings before, so I don't know how they work and the procedures with them. Do you guys vote now or later or behind chamber doors, or how's it work?
No, we don't vote behind chamber. But in a circumstance like this, if I sense that we might have differing opinions on council, we could take it to a vote. But it doesn't appear that's going to be the case, so at that point, we would end the conversation by saying, thanks for coming. If there's something we can work out down the road
Gotcha.
and at some
Okay.
other location.
Well, I appreciate your time.
Thanks for coming in,
Yeah,
guys.
yep, thanks.
Oh, just, like to hand these out at least. I made them for you guys. I think I have 15 people, right? It's our historical newsletter, so give you a freebie, a little leave behind. Hopefully you enjoy it.
Thanks, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Matt,
Thank you, sir.
thanks for coming in,
Appreciate
okay?
it. My pleasure. Thanks for having us. Thank you. Thanks for your undivided attention.
I have another thought I'm gonna look into for you.
Okay, I
Okay.
appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to move on to Dr. Hanlon from Chardon Local Schools, Superintendent. He's got a presentation for us. Welcome, Dr. Hanlon.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mayor Gron, members of council, City Manager Sharp, and members of the administration. Let's see if we're casting or not. It says I'm connected.
Oh, sorry. I stole this from the Heritage House, and I'm returning it. Should I leave this here?
Just leave it. Yes,
Okay,
just leave it.
all
It's fine.
Chief, give me a pass on that one, please. All right, thanks, buddy.
How did you get in there?
It's when I rented it for the last show. Yeah, thanks,
He
guys.
didn't stop by on his way here.
There you go.
Oh, great. All right, there we go. It's lagging just a little bit. Sorry about that. All right, again, thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. As we've done over the course of the last 10 years or so, we've done a State of the Schools presentation for council, so I appreciate the opportunity to come back in and talk about the great things that are happening in Chardon schools and hopefully to have a little bit of dialogue if we can. Before I begin, I'd like to recognize we have our Board of Education President, Mr. Keith Brewster, Board of Education member, Mr. Todd Albright, and another Board of Education member, Karen Blankenship, with us this evening. Certainly appreciate their support in attending the meeting this evening. So with focus of the presentation, I'm going to try to give you a little bit of information concerning student achievement in our school districts, some updates on capital improvement projects, and kind of an overview of where the district is going. Everything that has been happening is driven by what we call the district success plan or our strategic plan. That was developed by literally hundreds of residents and volunteers that served in that process and was adopted by the board in 2023 and carries us through 2028. And it identifies 6 areas that I'll speak about next on these slides. But our vision is that we want Chardon Schools to become a model school district. We want every other school district in the state, or for that matter beyond the state of Ohio, to look to us for policies, practices, procedures, everything that we're doing as something that they can model in their own school district. Again, our strategic plan is, and I won't read each of the elements of the slide, but I'll touch on these high points. Our strategic plan is centered around 6 core strategy areas: communications, engaged student learning, resources and fiscal responsibility, safety and security, facilities and operations, and community connections. And within each of those areas, there are specific strategies that we've already undertaken in the district and will continue to work on over the next several years. One of the really exciting pieces that is incorporated into this iteration of our strategic plan is the portrait of a hilltopper, or more generically in a number of school districts, they talk about a portrait of a graduate. And it identifies and really creates a focal point for everything that happens in our district. We want to ensure that all of our students, as they work their way through Chardon schools and ultimately graduate, embody each of these characteristics that we have. And so our staff is very mindful of these elements and making them prominent for students in all of the things that are happening, whether it be in the classroom, on the field of play, in extracurricular activities, whatever it might be. We are focusing on these 6 elements of our portrait of a hilltopper. So engaged student learning, and our mission statement in the Chardon schools is that we commit to high achievement for all students, and I'm very pleased to say that we've had a strong track record of doing that and continue to do so to this day. We focus a lot of our work around the 4 E's, which is employment, enlistment, entrepreneurship, or enrollment. And the vision is that every student upon graduation will be prepared to embark on one or more of these 4 E's in life, and that we've adequately prepared them as not only a school district but as a community to engage those 4 E's. So this is the 2022-23, I apologize if that slide's a little bit small, report card for the Chardon schools. We achieved 4.5 stars out of a 5-star system. That is in the top tier of school districts performing in the state of Ohio, and you can see the breakdown. Notably, achievement and gap closing were 5-star areas and very strong performance areas for the district. Again, when we look at the area of curriculum and instruction, we focus a lot of our work on securing grants to support the work that we're doing. Our school district has received a $1.4 million in grants focused on the science of reading. The governor has been a strong proponent of implementation of science of reading in schools. We've been well ahead of that curve and working on it now for the past several years. You may not be aware, but we've now introduced exploratory world language at grades K through 3. One of only a few districts that are doing that statewide and continuing to grow that program. And another area that we're very proud of is the expansion of College Credit Plus offerings on campus in our district. We are one of the area leaders of high schools. Now, all high schools have students leaving campus to go pursue CCP courses, but we offer business and accounting, engineering, college English, algebra, and trigonometry. All of those are offered on campus. And why that's significant is, number one, we have a strong staff that meets the qualifications to deliver CCP on campus, but more importantly, one of the expressed concerns that students have when they engage in CCP is, when they're leaving and going to Lakeland or Kent State or wherever it might be, they sometimes feel like they're missing out on the culture and climate of what's happening in their high school. This gives them the opportunity to engage CCP.
Please try again.
This gives them the opportunity to engage CCP courses on campus and still really get the best of both worlds. We continue our work to align to the state standards. Our teachers have done an excellent job of evaluating those standards and ensuring that we are meeting those and focusing instruction on those areas. That's what drives instruction in classrooms in Chardon schools. We've placed a strong emphasis on workforce development and transition. If you've been exposed at all to the Chardon High School Crew program, we are doing a lot with career development in addition to the students that go to Auburn Career Center, which is our career tech facility that we participate in. Our emphasis this year is on those curricular areas that are listed for revision that we'll be undertaking this school year. Capital improvements have been a strong focus over, I'd say, about the last 36 months. We've expended $11 million in capital improvements in 22-23, and that's projected to climb to $17 million in capital improvements through fiscal 24. Numerous projects have been undertaken. The Park Tunnel, chemistry classrooms at Chardon High School. The flood kind of helped us out there. Window replacements are ongoing district-wide. Food service equipment replacement happening. Paving and concrete replacement, plus a number of safety enhancements that I'll speak about. All the door locks in all of our classrooms, all the interior doors have been replaced. You can see the two-stage security vestibule that's been added at Chardon Middle School, along with and it's maybe hard to understand, but that picture in the middle, we now have a system in place at the middle school, which will be expanding to other schools where visitors to the building will scan driver's licenses, and those will have at least a minimal background check for the individual coming into school. So again, another component in layered safety and security in the district. Huge investment as a component of that capital investment that we've made in technology. We've completely revamped the wireless network in our school district, and you can see the new Promethean boards. If you've been in any of the classrooms in Chardon schools, we used to have what are called smart boards, projector with a kind of an interactive whiteboard. That technology is pretty much aged out now. These are 85-inch flat panel, fully interactive flat panels that teachers use, really computers on wheels in classrooms that they're using to deliver instruction. We've completed the implementation of those Prometheans at Chardon High School, Chardon Middle School, and the Early Learning Center. Park and Munson will be trailing behind next year as part of the capital budget for the school district. We've also engaged in a pretty exciting partnership with Geauga County Public Library at Chardon High School. We now have what's referred to as the Chardon Creativity Center, or C3, which is a makerspace. The library has had a makerspace in their Bainbridge facility for a long time. This opened up this fall, and you can see all of the equipment that's there, and it operates the same way that their Bainbridge facility does, where patrons can come, in this case, to Chardon High School, access any of this equipment in after-hours time at the high school. But the exciting part about it is our students and staff are able to use it during the school day, so we have a great partnership with the use of that makerspace. As I know council's aware, we've acquired the property on Washington Street, and that is going to be the future home of the district's transportation compound, our maintenance operations, and also our business operations in the school district. Again, why that's important is that this will give us the ability to get school buses and bus maintenance out of the high school, which is, it's not only a traffic concern, but it's a safety issue at the high school, and then change that back area into a dual traffic flow on campus, which is something that's been seriously lacking. So we can start to separate parent and student traffic from bus traffic on campus on a regular basis. Just a snapshot of district enrollment. As you can see, much like most school districts in the state right now, we're seeing a gentle decline in enrollment. It's not that students are going anywhere else, just overall statewide enrollment we're seeing in public education declining about 1% per year right now. So we're keeping right with that trend, and this is just a projection of what that looks like and what is projected to happen over the next several years. Fiscal stability, as I mentioned, we've been working very hard on maintaining the fiscal stability of the district. This is a 5-year projection that all school districts are required to prepare. Black line represents our total revenues. The gray bars represent our total expenditures in those years. And then the yellow line is the expenditure, or the remaining cash balance. And you can see the spend down of cash balance between now and 2028. Revenue, again, I won't go through all the elements of this slide, but we can make this available to you. The key talking point that I'd like to leave you with is that revenue in Chardon schools, about 74% comes from taxes. Of our total revenue, our next largest source is about 14.8% coming from state revenue, and then about 10.5% coming from other revenue sources. You can see that generally school district revenue stays flat and is projected to stay relatively flat over the years through 2028. Expenditures over that same period of time. One of the things that we're very proud to highlight is if you look at the years 2019 through 2022 on this chart, you'll see that expenditures remained relatively flat. It doesn't mean that things weren't happening in the school district, but that was the same period of time that the district was realizing benefits from the reconfiguration that we implemented. So the cost savings that came from that allowed us to basically hold expenditures flat for, it really is a 5-year period of time if you go back to the preceding year on here. And that's something that you just don't see in school districts. The trajectory is more like the years going forward from 23 through 28. That's a pretty standard trend for school districts. So the reconfiguration in our district, again, was a contributing factor to us achieving a measure of financial security in the school district over that time, and had a big impact on the district's finances. So that's a snapshot of the school district, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Dr. Hanlon, with the announcement made in the last month or so with the increased property valuations, and did the school look at that and decide to take any action at all?
So the school district, or the board, did evaluate that. Again, as noted in the presentation, the primary revenue for the district is property taxes and tax revenue. We did evaluate that, and the board opted to take no action at this time. I can go into further detail if you'd like.
Did you have many inquiries from the public as to?
So right after the letter came out from the commissioners, we probably received about 15 phone calls. Those phone calls generally were requesting additional information and seeking to understand school finance, which understandably is complicated. And I am prepared to speak about as much of that as council would like this evening. I am, out of those 15 phone calls, I can tell you that 2 expressed concern over the increase in our particular school district. Again, not all school districts are created equally. There are differing impacts of property valuation. It doesn't apply equally to all, even the 5 districts in the county.
Dr. Eitlin, I do think there is a misconception about how this is going to, I've heard it, I've mentioned it to you, that people think that because of this, the schools are going to have a windfall. I've actually heard that, a windfall.
Sure.
So can you just address that?
Well, let me back up, and I appreciate the question. I'm a property taxpayer too in Chardon, so I have a vested interest in what is happening and understanding the impact, and I think our board fully realizes that impact as well. I don't know if council's aware that for the past 6 years, I've worked the Fair School Funding Work Group. And we always hear that funding in Ohio, school funding in Ohio is unconstitutional. Well, that's actually not correct anymore. I worked on that work group since 2017. We were responsible for developing with the legislature the current funding model that is used in Ohio schools, which under testimony by experts in school finance have indicated that meets the constitutional test of a fair and adequate funding formula for Ohio schools. So all that to say, I probably know more about school funding than people would care to find interesting at parties. But with that, the auditor conducts the property valuation process every 6 years with a re-up on that every 3 years. This is not a new process that we've gone through. So just throwing out a number, a 23% increase in property valuation does not equate to a 23% increase in an individual's property taxes. Chardon Schools is not at what's referred to as the 20 mil floor for tax collection. And why that's important is that for all of the voted millage that has been approved by our taxpayers, that millage gets rolled back anytime valuation increases. As an increase in property valuation, there's a corresponding decrease in levies in order to adjust for that. The only place that, and again, where I believe there's a little room for argument is the idea that this is an unvoted change. It really isn't, in my humble opinion. The legislature, when they put House Bill 920 in place, which adjusts that voted millage down, left inside millage alone for school districts, recognizing that if there was an inflationary period, that school districts were also facing that same impact of inflation. I can give you a simple example. School buses for us used to be $80,000. Today they're $130,000. Okay, over the past several years, that's the kind of increase. So we feel an increase in operational costs as well, which is why, long explanation to say why the legislature ratcheted back voted millage but left inside millage alone to allow for a measure of growth in revenue in school districts to address that inflationary issue. In our district, with that history lesson of understanding that this process occurs on a regular basis, this isn't something that was new. Our treasurer, as part of the 5-year forecast, projects what the revenue is likely to be from those property valuation increases. We were anticipating somewhere between a $300,000 to $400,000 increase from those property valuations. We're seeing about $800,000. That's different than what some of our neighboring school districts are seeing as a result of this. To Mayor Grau's question, the Board of Education did consider that delta that I'm describing here between what was anticipated and what is likely to come out. And again, I don't know if council's aware, but our Board of Education took action to eliminate all fees that were charged in the school district effective this year, which returned approximately $560,000 back to parents in our school district, effectively a tax reduction, albeit not equally applied across every taxpayer, but nevertheless a tangible reduction in a tax that was charged to parents, if you will. So they returned that $560,000 to our parents as a way to leverage what we were seeing from that increase. So I'll take a breath there.
We've had, over the last few months, conversations with you and with the library and with the county commissioners on the property on the east side. Has there been any, the issue being that the library has stated their possibility of locating somewhere else. We want to keep them on the square. There was a partnership that was trying to be achieved between Chardon Local Schools and the library and the county commissioners, and we haven't talked about it much internally, but have you reached out to library management recently to determine whether that's still in play?
Yes, thanks for the question. Chris Carroll and I speak on a regular basis, and this has been in the forefront of our conversations. And we, as a school district, and I know I can speak for our board members, value having the library in proximity to the school. One of the difficulties of having an elementary school setting in a city environment, if you will, is the availability of green space for students to, at recess time, to exercise, play, do those things that are important in being a child. And the latest iteration of the concept was for a three-party agreement to bring the quote-unquote gravel pit in exchange for the property that the school district has, which would be the playground area, that green space to the east of the actual playground, and then the gravel parking area behind that, which is also school district property. Subsequent to that, there was then an expressed interest by the county to retain a portion of the gravel pit lot, which was going to be the exchange for magistrate parking, is my understanding. And that left not sufficient green space to accomplish the interests of the Board of Education to have for student use. So where we're at right now is Chris and I have agreed that we've made the very best effort we can to try to find a way to make this work for everyone. And it just seems like, there's not enough green space available to accommodate what we need.
That's unfortunate, but
So a follow-on question for that, Dr. Hanlon. Was that after, so the county subsequently has said that they're going to be purchasing the Chase Bank building. I would think then the magistrates could potentially find parking someplace else other than the so-called gravel pit. But that has a substantial parking lot. I don't know if any discussion's been had after the fact or just recently that the county said they're buying the Chase building.
Thank you for the question. I'm really not able to respond to that. I only know what was shared with me was that they wanted to preserve that section of that for magistrate parking. So I wasn't party to the conversations that led to that. Chris shared that with me.
Thank you.
hey, does anybody else have any questions or comments for Dr. Hanlon? Appreciate your coming in. Keep up the good work.
Well,
Chardon
thank you.
Local Schools.
Appreciate it. Have a great holiday.
Thank you, you too. All right, moving on to general public comments. Thanks for coming. Do we have anyone here from the general public that would like to speak? And before you get up, How many people want to speak? 2, 3, 4, 5? Okay, so
Optional.
what we're gonna do is, generally, we're gonna set a 3-minute, okay? And then, well, please,
Yep, I have a letter and I timed it, I'll come
okay,
back a little
then
bit.
come on up and introduce yourself and tell us where you're from, and then we'll start the clock.
I'm Caroline Mansfield. I work for the county. I'm representing Curtin 440. So can I start?
Yes.
I'm Caroline Mansfield. I'm an active participant in Curtin 440 Productions and have been since the beginning. I've worked on Chardon Square for 37 years, 8 years with Bank One, now Chase Bank, and 29 years with the county. I've been the chief deputy treasurer for the last 23 years. I've always thought of Chardon Square and the city of Chardon as my second home. I've been here a long time. I was a member of the GLTG since 1987, long before that organization had a home on Chardon Square. We put shows on wherever space was available, difficult to say the least. It was a blessing when the theater on the square became available and we moved in. It felt like it fit us. It was good. It was actually a nightmare to see that one person's actions led to the downfall of that amazing arts organization. Over the years, I've seen the connection to community that the theater and the arts have brought to our city. I remember all the years of shows, rehearsals, programs, collaboration that helped bring a vibrancy back into this town as well. I remember the doors to the theater being opened 6 days a week with families participating not only in theater, but in community events, shopping, dining, even just hanging out on the beautiful Chardon Square. It was upsetting for me for the last few years to see the doors locked 90% of the time, and it seemed to be such a waste. The arts have the ability to transform and connect people, grow from an extremely talented, driven 16-year-old to an even more driven, passionate, and successful businesswoman, mother, and friend. She opened her business before the pandemic. She is still here. That's due to her savvy business sense and work ethic